It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Great to have you in studio with us today. Becky Salazar is back with us. She's the president of Animal Disaster Services. A phone number for you. We'll repeat this over and over again. It's 928-925-7990, and the website is animaldisasterservices.com. Hello, Becky.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
I told you before the show, I was so glad you called because your services were needed. Animal Disaster Services.
They were just recently, yes.
Just recently. Let's go back in time. How long has Animal Disaster Services been around?
Since 1999.
Okay.
So a long time.
How did it come about?
It came about, it was formed through kind of a co-op between the Yavapai County Emergency Management Director at that time and local citizens who saw the need.
Were you one of those citizens?
No.
No, you weren't at the time?
I wasn't here,
Okay.
I've only been around for, I don't know, about 10 years maybe.
So how did you get involved?
I think Wildfire Expo at the Courthouse Square in Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
They had a little booth set up there and a sign-up sheet because they needed volunteers. And so my husband and I volunteered at least to go sit through a meeting. And it looked like a real need and something that we could fulfill.
You a pet owner?
Yes. Cats. Lots of them.
So you're a cat lady, huh?
I'm a cat lady.
Okay.
We don't have a fenced yard at all, so I love dogs, but
Yeah.
no way to let them out to go.
Gotta have a fenced yard, yeah.
Yeah.
So is it how many volunteers do you have right now?
That's a tough question because we find that volunteers, whenever there's a fire, we have a lot of people who volunteer. You can't just walk in and volunteer at that time because we need to give you some basic training first. So people volunteer, but then if we don't have a fire for a while, it kind of wanes. So on the books, there's probably 90 volunteers, but whether they would all be considered active, probably not.
So let's talk about that then. How do you remain an active volunteer with the group?
We meet on a monthly basis and just go over what's current with the group, anything that's happened for the past month, and then we try to tack on some kind of training or a guest speaker on the end of that. And so they need to participate in that. They need to participate in just keeping active, up with their training, up with the information that's going on, and that would create what I would consider an active member.
Yeah, it makes sense. You have to be engaged with the group in order to know what's going on.
Right.
So you said basic training. Let's talk about that a little bit. What's considered basic training?
We do a mock drill. Actually, Yavapai County does a mock drill with all of emergency responders once a year. The last 2 years, the types of activities that they've done didn't really involve us very much, but when they do, we participate in the mock drill in that we go and we actually set up a shelter, and everybody brings their pets, and that kind of gives us a refresher on the things that we're going to run into. We have a great big red trailer with all of our equipment and crates and stuff like that in it. So it helps everyone to know what has to come out first, what second, what can we do tomorrow, those kinds of things. And then set up the kennels and know how to properly get a dog in and out of a kennel. You don't just reach in and drag them out, of course, those kinds of things.
I wouldn't even thought of that.
We go over the paperwork. Some dogs, depending on where they're from, when we've had Crown King fires, I don't think any of those dogs have ever been in a kennel or on a leash. They're out in the middle of nowhere. They just let them out, and so those kinds of things are sometimes unique. You run into unique situations depending on where the people are coming from, or the pets.
I think last time you were here, you had some unique pets as well.
We did, yeah.
If I remember right? You had a couple that were really unique.
We had rabbits. That was the Yarnell Hill fire. We had rabbits. We had guinea pig. or a hamster. I'm not sure which. We had a lot of different barnyard animals. We had donkeys and sheep and things like that. That was real different for us.
Yeah, so I guess you got to be prepared for those things too.
We do.
Yeah, so
We do, and we will take them all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's great. And I think one of the nice things too, during this most recent event that occurred, the Tenderfoot Fire, I knew that Becky Salazar and Animal Disaster Services, you guys are always like set up right next door to Red Cross.
Yes.
Which is really handy. And why is that? Explain why that it's such a good thing.
It's for the people. People love their pets, their family.
Sure do.
And it's a very stressful situation to be evacuated. You don't know if your home still exists or not. In the Tenderfoot Fire, we had a lady that told us that the fire was literally 10 feet from her back fence when she left home. And so being in that kind of stressful situation, it helps to have their animals right there. They can come visit them. They can take them for a walk. They can feed them dinner, those kinds of things. It gives a little bit of normalcy to, the everyday doing things. Plus our pets give us that comfort. So just being there, just go sit with them.
It's calming, I would imagine, for many folks.
It is.
I mean, you hear about the programs where they have dogs going into nursing homes.
Yes.
Vets that are recovering from injuries. They've got dog programs. Dogs and horses.
Right.
Seem to be involved in quite a few programs, so there's your pets right there. Before we get into the next question, I think we'll take our first break first, okay? Because I want to talk about how your response is to these events, how you're notified and things like that. So we'll hit that first, okay?
All right.
Number for Becky is 928-925-7990, 925-7990. Website is animaldisasterservices.com. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Come celebrate summer and agriculture at the 25th Annual Camp Verde Corn Fest, July 15th and 16th in downtown Camp Verde. Enjoy fire-roasted sweet corn, live music, beer garden, craft fair, cornhole contest, plus kids contests and activities. The Fort Verde State Historic Park will host a vintage baseball game and Adobe brick-making demonstrations. Celebrate the summer season and the delicious sweet corn from Camp Verde at the 25th Annual Corn Fest.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke.
I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911.
Protect the ones you love.
Spot a stroke fast.
Welcome back to Countywide. Animal Disaster Services President Becky Salazar in studio today. Her phone number is 928-925-7990. Website is simple, animaldisasterservices.com. All right, coming back from the break this time, I want to kind of get an idea as what it's like for you. The day of the Tenderfoot Fire. I mean, it was, boom, all of a sudden, here it is, just like the Yarnell Hill Fire. It was almost exactly the same scenario.
Right.
I mean, it started out as this little tiny fire, and all of a sudden it was just exploded.
It exploded.
Yeah. And What happens to Becky on a day like that?
I get a call from the county director, Denny Folk, and he doesn't call until there's an actual evacuation of people. Then he calls me. He might call and say, heads up, it looks like we could be having an evacuation, but we don't actually deploy until the people are evacuated. And he tells us where to set up, where the Red Cross is going to go and where we're going to go. So that said, I always ask him to bring our trailer because it's stored at the county yard with all of our stuff in it. But each of our members has what we call a car kit that's got basic things in it that we could get started if we get there before the trailer does. So I get the call. I start making phone calls to other members of our group. We head to wherever the shelter's going to be, and sometimes there's people there before us. In the case of Yarnell, this time for the Tenderfoot, they had a ways to come, so we were there first and had the opportunity. Actually, when I showed up, my trailer pulled up right next to us.
Oh,
So,
good timing.
yeah, good timing. So we had the chance to set up kennels, set up our intake table. We do a lot of paperwork to ensure that we've got the right dog with the right people and we've got all the permissions that we need if there's an emergency, that we can go to the vet, that kind of thing. So we just start setting up the shelter. There's a dog room, there's a cat room, and then we kind of wait and see if there's a need for another room. That could be reptiles, it could be bunnies,
Rabbits.
it could
Okay,
be,
gotcha.
yes, because they're never housed together. Although in the Tenderfoot fire, the last family that got to go home, they were held for a little while. They had 4 dogs and a cat. And so at the very end, we moved the cat into the same room with the dogs because they were all family anyway.
Sure,
So,
sure.
and they're all in kennels. So we get them out one at a time for playtime and walking. So there's no chance of injury or anything like that. But Cat didn't mind. He was back with his dogs. So.
Right, yeah. Probably leading all those dogs too. So is it a lot of paperwork to fill out?
It's not a lot of paperwork, but we identify the animal, we identify if they're aggressive, and there's different kinds of aggressive. There's just aggressive with food. I don't want to share with my family dog, or there's aggressive walking. This is my person walking me, but they're not aggressive any other time. So we try to identify all those things so that we know exactly what we're facing when we feed and when we walk and those types of things. We have what we call a secret code. Our form that we fill out, our intake form, is a 2-ply form, and we give you a copy so that when you come back, you have to give us that copy so that we give you the right animal. And we don't give away the animal to somebody who says, that's my dog.
Sure.
But a lot of times, the wife has the copy in the purse, and the husband comes to get the pets. And so we have a secret code of a birth date. We always ask that birth date. So if your wife checked in your animals, you better know her birth date when you come to get them.
Gotcha. All right. Okay. So that's kind of the other trigger then. If I either have the form or I know
Right.
something. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And again, that's, so that if we have a high-value pedigree dog in there, that someone doesn't just walk in and say, that's my dog, and I've come to take it home.
Sure.
So,
That makes sense.
yeah.
So you guys, in addition to, say, I guess not everyone that drops off a pet at Animal Disaster Services is necessarily staying right next door at the Red Cross shelter. I mean, they may have
That's true.
friends or family in the area, so they're staying there. So they may not be able to come back as often as they'd like to
Right.
take care of the dog or the cat. So I imagine you guys are probably, that's quite a job.
Actually, we do most of the care for the animals. If the owners want to come in, they certainly can, and they can visit or they can walk their dogs. We don't let general public just come in to see, only owners. But yes, that's true in a lot of cases. They aren't close by, they're staying elsewhere. So it is our responsibility, and we are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until they're allowed to go back home. And actually, the first day is a little hectic. The pets, you can tell they're stressed.
Sure.
They don't know what's going on. But by day 2, it's really almost fun to watch. They just settle right into the routine. They quiet, they calm down, you know, there's no longer the barking and the whining, and this is the way it is, so okay. And like I said, we get them out, we take them for walks really every couple of hours, sometimes a little longer if they're sleeping, you know, like babies, we don't wake them up to go for a walk. But we'll also get them out and put them in exercise pens, which is a much bigger area. And they can go out there and play. They don't have to be on a leash, that kind of thing. Or we might have an exercise pen just set up within the room that we're in, and we'll put them in there and it's bigger. Sometimes real mellow dogs, that'll be their pen. It won't be an actual crate that closes. But we'll also get them out and just sit on the floor and love on them and play with them, or go out and sit under a tree. We do the same for the cats. We get the cats out one at a time if they're not afraid. Sometimes they're afraid and they want to be left alone enclosed. They feel safe enclosed.
Sure.
But we'll get them out and, you know, play with toys and stuff on the floor and spend time with them individually.
I think it's probably easier than dealing with the people.
It is.
You know, dealing with the animals.
It is.
I want to make sure we get into, you mentioned you wanted to talk about buddy system.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk about, and I want to make sure we do this before we hit our next break, which is just a few minutes away. We talk about the 5 Ps. I think it's pets, pills, papers, your personal computer, and pictures. Those are the 5 Ps that you're supposed to have ready to go in a moment's notice. Right. And we saw in the Tenderfoot fire, it was down to a moment's notice. You just mentioned one lady said the fire was 10 feet from her fence.
Right.
And so it could be the sheriff's office hits that door and says, you got to go, and you got to go now. So that stuff's got to be ready to go. What are some of the things, as a pet owner like myself, that I should have in my mind and thought about if that knock comes on my door?
You should actually have it physically put together, not just in your mind. You need to think about whether you have a dog that tends to run and hide when it can sense stress. And if so, where does that dog hide? What if you're not home? That's the buddy system I was talking about. I like to think that everybody has an evacuation bag for their pet, just like you have for yourself, with the pet's food in it, leashes, if there's a prescription that the animal's on or prescription food that the animal is on. In the case of cats, a small litter box, a small first aid kit for both, all animals, not just cats and dogs. Like I said, those essentials that they would need if you're not going to have all your supplies there at home, if you're not at home. Have all that in a tote bag ready to go. And in the case of cats, you need that carrier, that kennel to take them in, because just carrying them in your arm is going to be...
That's not going to work.
It's not going to work with a cat. So you need something... to enclose them, to bring them in, or to evacuate with them. And all of that at this time of year should not be up on the garage shelf. It should be right by the door on the way out to your car.
Pet's name on it, probably ready to go, huh?
Yes. And I even encourage putting your pet's pictures in there, because you never know. You never know. You might get out in the parking lot at the Red Cross shelter, and the pet panics and backs his way right out of his collar, and there's your dog running loose in the parking lot. So pictures are helpful to have in that little kit. Doesn't take up a lot of room, and all of that should be ready to go right by the door. Now, where the buddy system comes in is, what if you're not home? What if you went to the grocery store, or what if you're at work? You need to have a neighbor or a family member that lives close by that has access to your house. And if an evacuation is called, they call your house. If you're not home, they go over and get your pets. So that takes a little bit of advanced planning. You need to exchange keys. Your pets need to become familiar with that person so that they don't run and hide when that person comes in the door. And like I said, if you have a pet that is afraid of strangers or does panic, then that person needs to know Where am I going to find it? Is it under the bed? Is it in a closet? What's their favorite sleeping place? It might be up on a shelf in a closet. So they need to know where to go and find them.
Okay. All right, we have to take another break. Animal Disaster Services President Becky Salazar in studio. Phone number is 928-925-7990. Website is animaldisasterservices.com. Back in just a couple minutes.
It's not always easy being a dad.
Do you have panda asthma too? Does that run in the family?
This is the home of the most priceless kung fu artifacts.
But when you make an effort,
Dad, we're not supposed to touch anything. Oh, sorry.
Go long, son!
it's always worth it.
Whoa, master!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
I am gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
That's
Welcome back to Countywide. We got about a minute and a half left in the program. 928-925-7990 is the phone number for Animal Disaster Services, and the website is animaldisasterservices.com. Let's quick hit donations and volunteers. I imagine you need donations.
Both always, yeah.
Dog food spoils. You can't
Dog
keep
food
it forever.
spoils. We actually usually get a lot of donations when something like this happens. So dog food is something that we don't always need.
What do you need the most of?
Money.
Money.
Really money. That way we can go out and buy what we do need. When we did our last mock drill, we thought we had lost our leashes, that we couldn't find leashes or collars anywhere, and that was going to be a big expense for us. We did find them, so we do have them. And yes, food does spoil, but usually we can just put the word out for that. We have found that we like to be able to help these pet owners if we can. We had an injured pet come in this last time that wound up with a great big vet bill, and we would love to be able to help that lady if we could.
You have a PayPal attached to the website, right?
We do, yes.
Okay,
You can go right to the website and click on make a donation, and PayPal will let you go
PayPal's
there.
a safe way to make a donation too.
Yep, yep.
Volunteers. You need volunteers?
We need volunteers, and we always need them in advance because, like I said, we can't take you on just a walk-in basis because there's some training involved first.
Right.
So yes, now is the time to give us a call and say, I want to volunteer. That way we can get you trained, hopefully, before the next one. I hope there's not a next one.
Right, but you never know.
You never know.
All right, that's all we got time for.
Okay.
Becky Salazar, President of Animal Disaster Services. Again, that phone number is 928-925-7990. Website is animaldisasterservices.com. That's today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.